Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the latest developments surrounding Ukraine's latest strikes on Crimea and Russia's frantic efforts to reinforce its defenses. This new phase of the conflict has reignited attention on the strategic and symbolic importance of Crimea, a region that has remained at the heart of tensions since its annexation by Russia in 2014. Over the past weeks, Ukraine has intensified its operations deep behind enemy lines, targeting key Russian positions in Crimea. Reports indicate that Ukrainian forces have successfully struck air defense systems, command centers, and logistical routes that are crucial to Russia's military presence on the peninsula. These strikes are not isolated incidents, they represent a larger strategy aimed at undermining Russia's hold on Crimea by attacking its most vital infrastructure. Russia, in turn, is scrambling to respond. Satellite imagery and intelligence reports show that Moscow has rushed reinforcements to the region. Fortifications are being expanded, new air defense systems are being installed, and defensive barriers are being constructed around critical assets like the Kerch Bridge. The bridge, which connects Russia to Crimea, has become a central target of Ukrainian attacks and a key symbol of Russia's determination to hold the peninsula. To understand why this escalation matters, we need to look back at why Crimea is so significant. Since Russia's annexation in 2014, Crimea has served as both a military stronghold and a political trophy for the Kremlin. It houses major naval bases, airfields, and logistical networks that support Russian operations across southern Ukraine. For Ukraine, striking Crimea is not only about weakening Russia's military, it's also about reclaiming national pride and challenging the idea that Russia's occupation is permanent. Recent Ukrainian attacks have included missile and drone strikes on radar stations, ammunition depots, and supply hubs. One particularly notable strike targeted an advanced Russian air defense system on Crimea's western coast, severely reducing Russia's ability to intercept Ukrainian drones and missiles in that area. Another operation reportedly used underwater explosives to hit the supports of the Kerch Bridge, demonstrating Ukraine's growing capability to carry out complex, multi-domain attacks. These operations reveal a shift in Ukraine's strategy. Rather than focusing solely on frontline battles, Ukraine is now going after Russia's deep logistical arteries. By targeting supply chains and rear bases, Ukraine aims to stretch Russia's resources thin and force it to defend multiple fronts at once. This approach mirrors how Ukraine has adapted over time, using limited resources and ingenuity to offset Russia's larger manpower and equipment advantage. For Russia, these attacks are a serious problem. The Kremlin has invested enormous resources into portraying Crimea as secure and untouchable. Every successful Ukrainian strike undermines that narrative and raises questions about the effectiveness of Russian defenses. It also threatens the morale of Russian troops stationed in Crimea, who now face the reality that even in what was once considered safe territory, they are within reach of Ukrainian weapons. The Kerch Bridge, in particular, remains a constant source of anxiety for Moscow. It is not only a vital supply route connecting Russian mainland logistics to occupied southern Ukraine, but also a powerful political symbol for President Putin. The bridge's repeated targeting, whether through missile strikes, drone attacks, or underwater explosives, represents Ukraine's determination to show that no part of Russia's military infrastructure is truly invulnerable. In response, Russia has deployed a wide array of defensive measures. Floating barriers and underwater nets have been installed to prevent drone and sea-borne attacks. Anti-aircraft missile batteries have been moved closer to the bridge, and radar systems have been recalibrated to detect low-lying drones or stealth munitions. Smoke generators and decoy systems are being used to obscure the bridge during possible attacks. Despite these precautions, experts suggest that Ukraine's growing precision strike capabilities will continue to challenge Russian defenses. The situation highlights the evolution of modern warfare. We're witnessing a transition from large-scale tank and infantry battles to a conflict dominated by technology, intelligence, and precision strikes. Ukraine's effective use of drones, naval drones, and long-range missiles has forced Russia to rethink its traditional military doctrines. In many ways, this phase of the war has become a contest between innovation and fortification, Ukraine pushing boundaries through creative tactics, and Russia digging in, building ever more elaborate defenses. Beyond the tactical level, the strategic implications are enormous. Every successful Ukrainian operation in Crimea sends a message to both domestic and international audiences. For Ukrainians, it reinforces hope that victory, even partial or symbolic, remains possible. For Russia, it threatens the illusion of control and permanence. And for the international community, it raises new questions about the long-term trajectory of the conflict, especially as Western aid and support continue to play a crucial role in Ukraine's ability to carry out such strikes. Another layer of complexity is the psychological and political dimension. Each Ukrainian hit on Crimea is amplified across social media, news outlets, and political discourse, eroding Russia's image of dominance. Conversely, each new layer of Russian defenses reveals a sense of vulnerability. It shows that Moscow understands Ukraine's capabilities are growing, and that even heavily fortified regions are not beyond reach. In military terms, the escalation in Crimea could mark a turning point. By focusing on the peninsula, Ukraine is trying to cut off Russia's ability to project power into southern Ukraine. Crimea serves as a central hub for command operations, ammunition storage, and troop deployment. If Ukraine can consistently disrupt those functions, it forces Russia into a reactive posture, draining its resources and attention. Meanwhile, Russia's defensive efforts come at a steep cost. Building and maintaining fortifications across hundreds of kilometers of coastline, while also supplying frontline troops, is stretching Russia's logistics to their limit. Each additional defensive line means fewer resources available for offensive operations elsewhere. The Kremlin may be forced to make difficult decisions about where to allocate men and materials, especially as Ukrainian strikes grow more frequent and precise. From a broader perspective, the battle over Crimea underscores how much this war has evolved. Both sides are locked in a war of adaptation, each learning, adjusting, and responding in real time. Ukraine's success in penetrating Russia's defenses in Crimea demonstrates not just technological progress, but also improved intelligence and coordination. Western supplied systems and homegrown innovations are combining to produce results that even a few years ago would have seemed impossible. Russia, on the other hand, continues to rely heavily on its vast industrial capacity and manpower. The Kremlin is ramping up production of air defense systems, missiles, and drones, while conscripting new troops to maintain pressure along the front lines. Yet, as this new phase unfolds, it's clear that simply producing more weapons may not be enough to counter Ukraine's increasingly targeted and strategic approach. The strikes on Crimea also carry diplomatic consequences. Internationally, they reinforce Ukraine's argument that its struggle is not just defensive, but also about reclaiming stolen land. Every successful operation weakens Russia's claim that Crimea is forever Russian. It also reminds the world that the peninsula remains a flashpoint with global implications affecting energy routes, shipping in the Black Sea, and the broader balance of power in Eastern Europe. For ordinary Crimean residents, the renewed fighting brings fresh uncertainty. Civilian areas near military targets have been affected by explosions and disruptions. Many have fled inland, while others are living under heightened security measures imposed by Russian authorities. Moscow has increased surveillance, restricted movement, and tightened control over local communication networks in an attempt to maintain order. As this back and forth continues, analysts believe the conflict in Crimea will intensify. Ukraine has made it clear that its goal is to make the peninsula untenable for Russian forces. That means continued strikes on fuel depots, radar sites, and supply convoys. Russia, meanwhile, is unlikely to relinquish control easily. The peninsula's military and symbolic value makes it a red line for the Kremlin, and any major loss there could trigger a wider escalation. In the months ahead, we can expect both sides to double down. Ukraine will keep testing Russia's defenses, looking for weak points. Russia will fortify, retaliate, and possibly launch new strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure in response. The cycle of attack and counterattack will continue, but the balance may slowly shift depending on whose strategy proves more sustainable. This conflict is no longer just about territory. It's about endurance, innovation, and perception. Ukraine's hits on Crimea have proven that the war's front lines are no longer confined to trenches and fields. They now stretch across the skies, the seas, and the information space. Each side knows that controlling the narrative is almost as important as controlling the ground. As of now, the world is watching closely. The situation in Crimea represents more than just another military clash. It's a test of resolve, technology, and political will. Ukraine's ability to strike so deep into Russian-held territory shows how far its military has come. Russia's rush to reinforce its defenses shows how much pressure it's under to maintain control. The outcome of this struggle will likely shape not only the future of Crimea, but the future of the entire conflict. Thank you for watching, and if you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll continue to follow this story as it develops, bringing you the latest updates on Ukraine's strikes, Russia's defenses, and what it all means for the road ahead.